Well, TGIT, which actually I don't believe anybody ever says because I don't know many people that are that happy to be on Tuesday night. But hey, I appreciate everybody being in here tonight as always. If nothing else, it gives us a little something fun to do. Not quite halfway through the week, and I was chatting with Phil and Julie before we went live, and I said I do this to myself literally every single week, where I think I'm going to plan something and then I don't, and I get all the way to Tuesday and I'm scrambling trying to find other good people who are willing to bail me out. And I found a couple of suckers again with me tonight. So I think most of you guys already know who Phil and Julie are from the Bourbon Van, but we did our Matt Madness thing last Friday. Didn't fare very well for any of us, unfortunately, but it was still fun. It was always good to kind of chat a little bit with everybody. And yeah, have a good time. That's really what it's all about. So tonight's kind of show, live stream, whatever you want to call it. I figured since we were kind of already getting into the first third of 2023, that maybe it was time to chat a little bit about some of our favorite whiskeys that we've been enjoying so far. So for me, there's been a few that have stood out. I think, whether they agree or disagree, we'll find out. But that's the fun part of this, is to see kind of what it is that's popping up on everyone's radar. So I've got a few that are already out here that for me, and so far it's kind of Heaven Hill dominant, I'll say a little bit, but we'll see. And I haven't gotten into that many. One other one I think we'll be talking a little bit about tonight. But let me first, before I bring on Phil and Julie, let me just say hi to a few people. Kitty was in here early. Roy was in here. Dougie, good to see you, bud. Barter's in here. Good to see you. Blind Squirrel, good to see you. Rusty. Who we got? Rebel Lockett, good to see you. Leslie Lockett. All right, got the Locketts in. In here. Who else we got? Nate, good to see you. Mark Mace, good to see you, Mark. John's in. Will, how you doing, Hendo? Roy's in. Waxter's in. Good to see you. I'll be on their channel tomorrow. I think 7 Central, 8 Eastern, I believe. Whack, correct me if I'm wrong, but who else we got in here? Tater Dom, good to see you. Popham Troy, good to see you, brother. Joe's in here at MJ. So let me, I'm not going to ramble on anymore. Thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody being on tonight. Let me bring on the two of the hour here, and we'll get going, and we'll chat a little bit here. So there they are.
Hey,
don't you love like the green room? You feel like, you should have some M&Ms. You got your sparkling water, all of that good stuff.
No, but not in this green room. This is the Matt Madness loser bracket.
Yeah, we're just one huge loser bracket right here.
We're getting only what we deserve, which is very little.
Yeah,
man, that was a sad performance. Even though when we were doing that, I swore to God that they were all ryes. For whatever reason, they were all drinking very rye-like to me.
I would have put money on the fact that first one was a rye.
Yeah.
And then it just totally threw the entire thing off. Like literally that second one, I was like, oh, for sure this is a bourbon. And it's crazy. Yeah.
I never get it right when I'm smelling them. I never know what the heck every time,
yeah.
Whatever it is on the nose, whatever I think it is, it's the opposite. So I need to just stop trusting myself, because after the first round, I was laying an egg and I thought, this is going to be the first qualifier with a 0 in it.
It's so tough. Well, that's the thing. You think of the opposite. Like if I'm thinking it's a rye, well, it's got to be a bourbon. But then if I say that, then it's going to be a rye. So you start those mind games with that. And I didn't realize 30 seconds could be that fast.
Oh yeah,
right.
And there's music going.
Yeah, and I wanted to listen to the music. Those silly songs.
I did get a little distracted by the music, like
how could you not?
And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be texting right now. It was super fun. And I went in hoping I'd get a point, and we did. So
we got points.
We got multiple points, multiple digits.
We beat our best expectations.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And if for me, like my expectation is anything above 0. So I did okay. So I felt pretty good, even though we ended up in Loserville. It was still fun. I honestly thought when we were doing that we were going to be doing the actual live stream for like 4 hours. I didn't realize that it was other people. Like I thought, and I was thinking to myself, how are we going to do a 4-hour like live stream like this with like 3 small samples? Like this seems like it's not going to work very well. So
I had DoorDash queued up. I was ordering pizzas. I thought we're going to have delivery during this thing.
Did you guys think you were in for like hours too?
We honestly didn't know. Because it's not like you didn't get a ton of information. We were 2 days before we were supposed to be on. The samples showed up on the porch. We had received no information.
But it did say it was like round 1 and 2 or whatever. So I kind of think we thought we'd be in there for like 2 hours. Like we knew it went a long time. But yeah, we should have probably done some practice tests, which we did not really do.
We did one,
and when we did it by ourselves, like it did take a while. I mean,
well, we got them
but
right.
We were chatting too. So.
Everything that we did was after the fact. Like, on the nose, I guessed it was a rye. As soon as I tasted it, I was like, oh, that's a bourbon. Well, you can't go back from that.
Yeah, you can't. I know. It's the aroma.
It's exactly the way it is. Like I tried to do some like very like loose planning, which isn't really like my style. Like I like kind of just going into it like that, which clearly it showed. But I kind of thought the same thing too. Like as I get into, I thought I was going to like kind of get in the groove, and just never did. So
yeah, it was super fun. I would totally do it again.
It was great. Yeah, and Matt's all kinds of fun.
So much fun. Yeah. And I don't know. My biggest Achilles is second guessing myself, and then like I doubled down on all my answers. Like I was like, well, the first go, I said it was this age, so I'm gonna go even more, even though I knew it was wrong. That's kind of what I try to do. Like the gut, whatever people say, go with your gut. But I mean, when you fall into the pattern of your gut being wrong an awful lot, like you can't just go with your gut anymore. It's mind games. But
we have to also apologize if there's extra noise around here. Our cat just woke up. So far, she's running around. She has turned on the treadmill and knocked something over in the laundry room. So if the whole thing goes down, I'm sorry.
That's a pretty good cat. She's already exercising, looking for a little treadmill action. All right.
Yeah, I saw her hanging from the TV. I was going to
say she's doing it right now. She's about to bring it down.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, everybody knows. So if we lose Phil and Julie, you understand why. Router goes down because the treadmill comes down. So anyway, all right. We can stop blabbing about Matt Madness and being that part. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And part of this honestly got me thinking about you guys, because I've threatened you a million times about having you on, and we haven't yet. And tonight was the first time, and I'm glad that you ultimately said yes. But in watching a couple of your videos of things, specifically the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, I thought, I'm like, well, this would be kind of a fun one to have you guys on, and maybe just talk a little bit about, some of our favorite, bourbons, whiskeys, can be whatever it may be, going like you're coming, into 23. And for me, I guess my opinion is, I think, with coming off last year being a little bit of it felt like kind of a down year with whiskey for whatever reason, that I think it feels stronger already to me. Yeah. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on like kind of where you think things are like in the first, kind of quarter of the year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we've purchased fewer bottles so far this year, but we've been more excited about a much higher percentage of them. So yeah, I think that we agree with that. I need to bring up my list.
It's been kind of a big one so far for me. Like early on, it seems like it's been dominated a little bit by Heaven Hill, and for me, like in a much better way, because if we're talking like the Larceny, the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, those at times have, for me, not always like hit at the same time very well. Like one's good, one's okay, or both bad. I shouldn't say bad. Now some of the Larcenies to me have been kind of not so good, but I think at the end of the day, we're always splitting hairs with the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. We're just kind of being like whiskey nerds, like
I know. I agree about Elijah Craig. It's always good. Like you can't complain about it. It's always solid. you just like sometimes you're like, yeah, but that last one was a little bit better, or we liked the proof point a little bit more, or whatever. But it's just really kind of ticky-tacky stuff because
it's like pizza. Pizza's always good.
Yeah.
Just sometimes it's better than others.
Yeah.
You couldn't have said it better. Like, that's a very good analogy. And it is. We're always splitting hairs with a lot of these. And I would say to anybody with these, doesn't matter what the batch is, I think they're always a buy, you know. And for me, I mean, when you consider again what that is, you know, and we're not going to be telling anybody probably who's watching anything they don't already know, but and again, for me, this is probably about $75 or so. And it's somewhat available. I mean, it's not like it just sits on the shelves, but it's still findable. And at that price, 12-year barrel proof bourbon, I mean, and Julie kind of said it well in your video. Like, that's bourbon. If you're gonna tell someone what bourbon tastes like, that is what it tastes like.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it's the quintessential flavors, and then you get bonus flavors here and there from that bottle. It always hits for me. It was my favorite bottle. Like, B520 was the one that really opened my eyes to new things, new flavors in bourbon. Kind of it made me obsessed with collecting more and seeing more and learning more. And ever since then I've been chasing that B520 Dragon. But no, there's been some great ones, especially recently.
Yeah, there really have. Like, last year was a little bit off. Like, I would say for me, this is probably a little bit more reminiscent of the 20 batches than it was 21 and maybe even 22, because, you know, specifically with this one, it just brought me back to it feeling almost as though it was an older, like more like well-crafted, sweeter bourbon that was just easy to kind of drink. We
haven't had any in a while. Should we pour some?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Like right now, like let me ask you, have you guys had the Larceny A123?
No, we actually just got the C922 because I just kept hearing about it, and I said, I have to, because I had avoided it ever since C920, because I bought B520 and C920 and they didn't really hit my palate.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe if the next, you know, someday we'll hear about Larceny coming on strong. And boy, C922, like, we heard so many good things about it. So we actually just got that one very, very recently, and we haven't seen 123 yet.
It was a good one. I think coming off of last year's the C922, I thought was really good. But the new one, again, I think it's very consistent with what it is they've already released in their kind of first quarter of consistency. It tastes a little older. It tastes a little bit like more well done. I think what you'd kind of expect from that. So I was really happy to taste the Larceny Barrel Proof A123. But let me set that one aside, and we'll pour some of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A123. And if anybody in the chat has had this yet, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on where kind of this one's hitting for everybody as well. For me, I'll say this. I mean, I'm probably as excited for this than maybe I ever have before, even though I think like some of the A batches of 2020 were like really good. I don't remember being as excited then as I am now as to where B and C may go with these.
Yeah, I think we're completely on the same page there. The notes that are coming out of this are similar to the notes that were coming out of those batches as well. I mean, it's a different type of chocolate on it. It's a different type of vanilla. The raisins have call it freshness, which sounds crazy, but it's you know, hard to put into words because we all describe our palates, you know, the things that we get differently. Yeah. But there are some absolute similarities there that I'm excited about.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. It just kind of reminds me, honestly, of some of the, like, even if you go back to like some of the 2017, I'm not going to say like kind of the squattier bottles or whatever that was, but even the 17s I thought were really good. 18, okay, but it reminded me of older whiskey for some reason.
Yeah.
So, And I don't know, maybe there is. I mean, we all know that it can be older than 12 years old. It just can't be less than 12. So
yeah.
And it's not like these guys are not pumping out whiskey like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge operation. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's not just a few hundred barrels of 12-year-old Elijah Craig laying around.
Just getting mixed in.
Well, if they just keep releasing Heaven Hill 17 over and over too, they'll catch up, and that's fine. If we could see some more of that on the shelves, that'd be great.
That's true. I mean, that's what really kind of makes you think, especially some of these large heritage brands like that. It just doesn't feel like there's a shortage of anything on that part, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think if there was that much of a shortage, especially for a big brand like that, you wouldn't sell this for $75 anymore.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, they have to have stocks, and then it's the same thing for even Russell's. The Russell's 13 and Masters Keep stuff, and like Wild Turkey's stacking up, and there's always new brands, new products, new well-aged things coming out. It seems like it's only a matter of time before we start seeing more readily available well-aged stuff from some of these, big makers. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's where for most people who I think really enjoy whiskey, I mean, you get that richness and complexity in older whiskeys. You just can't duplicate that part of a whiskey. So, but it's so good. It's
so amazing.
I always, I don't know what it is with Elijah Craig, but it always reminds me of just standing like somewhere in a rick house.
Yeah. Completely. There's a little mustiness, but it's not an offensive mustiness in any way.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
There's really nothing better. Yeah.
No, there really is. Yeah. If you're going to be trapped somewhere, that'd be a nice place to be trapped for a little while.
We haven't actually tried this since our tasting on that video.
Yeah.
And it smells different than it did then. It smells less intense. Ooh, that's going to be a dangerously good bourbon right here.
Because I think when you did the video, I think like Phil, you thought it was drinking like a little bit hotter, like you had some heat to it. I'll be interested to see what you think tonight.
Yeah, right out of the gate, it was a little warm.
And for me, I thought when I now I don't know about how you guys structure your reviews or whatever, but usually for me, I try to never do anything just off of like a freshly open bottle. Like I want it to get a little bit of air, take a little bit of time with it. Because I don't think just opening this thing up on day one and doing a review does this any justice. Like you just said, it's already changing on you.
Yeah.
I feel like if we do reviews where we just pop the cork that day, we make a note that this is what just because I agree. I mean, you have something today and then you try it a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and the flavor profile shifts. Not dramatically, but
it can.
The flavors seem more pronounced, a little bit deeper.
Well, and it doesn't have, these, when we do pop a cork on a new bottle, if we're going to do a tasting of it, it sits for 30, 40, 45 minutes with a coin, without a coin, just to let it open up a little bit, which helps. It's not the same as letting this thing get down to where it's at now.
Yeah.
I do kind of tell people though that expect that, at least for me, that when it gets to the middle of the E on Elijah, that's when I find that it's at its absolute best. I love these bottles when they get to there, and then they kind of disappear quickly after that. That's
really like whiskey nerdsome right there. When you talk about a certain level of the E, you know you've hit like whiskey nerdville at that point. Like that's pretty good. So
try that at your favorite whiskey bar. Ask them that, can I just have the pour right at the E? See what they say. See how that goes.
Yeah. I'll be back in tomorrow. I'm just waiting for that thing to get down to the middle part of the E.
Exactly.
Yeah. Give me the 101 until then.
Exactly. All right, let's do this. While we're sipping on this, I'd love for anybody who isn't familiar with the bourbon van, which I doubt anybody in here isn't. Why don't you share a little bit about kind of your channel? I'm always interested in going back a little bit. How did you get into whiskey? And were both of you into whiskey at the same time? Did one get somebody into whiskey more than the other? So I love the backstories of these things.
I mean, we lived in Chicago for about 10 years. And while we were there, we took, it's good.
Sorry, I just took a little baby sip. It's so good. It's like
this is excellent.
It's bourbon.
Yeah, and it's even better than I remember.
Yeah, it's even better.
That drink's nice now.
Sorry. I digress.
But when we lived in Chicago, we took an annual trip down to Kentucky. We had friends who lived in Lexington, Louisville, and so yeah, it was a as we got old enough to drink, and then we learned more about whiskey, and then living close enough to Kentucky to take an annual trip, and lots of tours and tastings and all those things, kind of fell in love with it. Eventually wound up in Oregon, and during that like trek out from Chicago to Oregon, you start to drink down your supply of whiskey, and we didn't get here with a lot of bourbon.
We didn't. I feel like we only had like a few bottles, and at the time, we do not recommend the strategy that we had, but it was like we had like no money, just kind of like crafty. And we're like, all this is coming with us in the trunk of the car. So you're like hiding it like places. But I think we showed up in Oregon with like 3 bottles, maybe.
3 bottles, maybe. Yeah,
and that was
wasn't
like
much.
Yeah.
And then over the last couple of years, we started building up a collection, and we both always enjoyed it. Whether with ice or not, we were never like, we would never just sit and do a tasting outside of being at a distillery or an event. But then one day, we started watching some whiskey tube channels and really enjoyed them. And then started doing our own tastings. And then from that, we said, well, maybe we should record a couple of these, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, I do think like the excitement that, when you find somebody that's like really excited about something and you want to join in on that excitement. I mean, Phil was definitely into bourbon well before I was. And then at some point I was like, enough of these mixed cocktails and like whatever. And to be honest, I probably was just like, it's kind of cool. Like if you could learn to drink bourbon without like ice or not, like I still like put an ice cube in things if it's like super hot, whatever. But like, I was like, I kind of want to get into it. It's such a simple, instead of these like crazy concoctions of 100 different ingredients, wouldn't it be nice just to like one thing? Yeah. And I mean, I think I started with like 4 roses probably. Yeah. And then just kind of grew from there. And then when Phil, and really it's during the pandemic,
it was the pandemic, right? Yeah. We needed something to do.
Yeah, we needed something to do. We were enjoying all the whiskey tube out there, and we're like, let's just see, like, why not? Let's just do something fun.
Yeah, and I was looking for a bit of a creative outlet. And video editing is just kind of, it's not a super creative thing to do, but it's good enough and kept me entertained. And Julie put up with it, so good enough.
And I think like everything, you need a bit of a shtick or whatever. So we're the bourbon van. We have a camper van. We love camping and traveling and what in the van, outside of the van. And so we were like going to places every weekend anyway. And, and it just kind of went from there where it's like, you just bring a whiskey along and enjoy it. And it's delicious. Yeah.
I thought it was a cool like perspective, like to get that where you can like literally either have a job or jobs that allow you sometimes the freedom to be able to go and do those things and be on the road, checking out different things. And that was kind of early on when I was thinking of that from a my bourbon journey standpoint. It was more than just plopping myself in front of a camera and doing reviews. It was the idea to go and visit, try to do all those other things. And then you quickly realize how much work it all is. And you don't always have all the PTO to go do all of that stuff. So it makes that part of it a little bit, more difficult. But I liked the kind of perspective that you had with that, and at least being able to be out and enjoy it. And you always seem to enjoy what you were doing, which was kind of refreshing.
If it's not fun, neither one of us is going to be interested in it. But we, right for the last few months, we've been sort of landlocked here with work keeping us close by. We can work remotely, but it's just been really busy lately. But we are excited to get back out there. Our Friday series, the 5-Sip Friday, where we try and guess what we're drinking because people sent us samples. We always try to do those in front of someplace pretty.
Right.
And those are really our favorite videos. It's you can't do SEO on them because you don't want to give away what you're drinking or anything like that. So that they're not, YouTube doesn't like them all that much, but the people who watch them enjoy them, and they're our favorite videos to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are always fun when you can get outside of the madness of the daily life and get out and enjoy yourself and still have fun. That's the best of both worlds. So I'm jealous when I see you guys out traveling and doing all the fun stuff, and it's probably because I'm like bitter stuff behind my desk, like working away or whatever. But no, that's good. I'm glad to hear excitement. I think for a lot of people, for all of us and in general, I think, the pandemic did create or cause, or force people to kind of get outside the box, do something that they maybe never would have done,
Yeah.
So
I think both of us were. I look back at what friends, or you see whatever, you talk to people and they've like taken up sewing or did all these built this new career or something outside of their regular job, and we were like, well, we like to drink, so
we multiplied our bottle collection by about 10 times.
So exactly. What do you guys do? Well, we buy a lot of whiskey, we drink a lot of whiskey. I mean, is that something? I mean, that is something, but
it's a thing. Well, we both have done endurance racing and running, a lot of it. And during the pandemic, I had a lot of back issues. I couldn't run anymore. I needed something to do. I was going stir crazy, and I was like watching Whiskey Tube videos, and I thought we could do something like this, give it a shot. And that's, so that's what we're doing.
It's a fun. Well, you guys are doing a darn good job at it. That's for sure. So
thank you.
You as well.
Yeah. We look forward to one day just randomly parking in front of your house and then doing a 5-cent Friday while you're riding your mower and back and forth in the background.
You are more than welcome. And I was kind of bummed that we didn't that we weren't able to kind of hook up when you guys were in Chicago. But hopefully next time. And if we get into doing more traveling and we end up in the Pacific Northwest, then we'll be visiting a tree near you somewhere. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we've got friends in Madison that we haven't seen in a little while. So in Chicago, we've still got friends and family there that we get back for pretty frequently. So it one of these days we're going to make that trip happen.
Well, I would tell you, if you do come, you don't need to bring any whiskey. I'm just telling you.
Well,
you won't need to bring any.
Behind you there. Do you have enough bottle? You may have a few bottles back.
We all have way more than we possibly need. That's for sure. We'll never get rid of this in a lifetime. I mean, I give a lot of it just to my dad, just so he can use. He doesn't drink it as much as he used to, but he likes his cocktails, and I say, here you go, just take this stuff, do whatever you want to do with it. But
I mean, that happens around here too. I mean, it's only fun when you're sharing it with people, and it's especially fun when you're sharing it with people who drink enough to get the flavor. And so we're constantly, every time we meet somebody that likes whiskey, we're like, hey, you want to
come on over?
Swing by?
We've got enough to share.
Come on,
it's really the fun part. I mean, I enjoy oftentimes like these that we're drinking right now, watching someone else experience whether you're an experienced whiskey drinker, never had it before. I love to watch people kind of react to what it is they're drinking, good, bad, whatever. It's fun. It's a fun part of it. So
I agree. And I'm a big proponent of trying to get people into drinking whiskey, because I myself was probably a little bit more reluctant. I didn't understand how it all worked. I mean, there's not a lot of technique, but there is technique to drinking bourbon, right? And so it's fun. We had some friends visiting, and I think I talked about it on one of our latest videos, but she was just like, nope, I don't like it. I've tried it, whatever. And we're like, well, you haven't tried this, right? And it's just these are gateway little sweethearts that get you into it. And it's just fun.
What did you give her?
What did we give her first? Well, I gave her 1910 because I feel like that's
that's a good one. That's good.
Yeah, that's just the easiest one. And
then it was 1910, and then we had a little bit of that old 55 bottled and bond left over.
Old 55, and that was really sweet.
That's a knockout. That's such a great bottle.
I feel like we gave her Russell's 10 too, because I feel like Russell's 10 is just so bourbon flavors,
it's
and
agreeable.
It's just a low proof, delicious. Yeah, I like it.
That's always the best part, is the person who tells you I just don't like it, and then you're looking around, what can I give these people to completely change their mind? It's the fun part.
And she emailed us and was like, we got our first bottle of X or whatever, so
it gets pretty exciting. Well, I saw someone commented before about, I wish my wife liked whiskey or whatever, and for me that was always man, I feel like we've not even hardly talked about whiskey. This is just more of a family time. But
that's probably our fault, because that's how we roll on our videos.
It's part of my fault too. When I get rambling about something, it's just what it is. But I'm pretty sure everyone doesn't care. But for me, it was important. I was trying to do, and I would say for anybody whose significant other doesn't maybe either enjoy it or is a little reluctant, is I don't want to say be persistent or whatever, but I mean, for me, it kind of was from the standpoint of it was just trying to like, you know, I don't know, I hate to say force. I mean, it sounds bad, but was just to keep like kind of baby stepping the process. And because she was just always like, why do you like this stuff so much? And it's hard to explain. Like, how do I tell someone who doesn't drink this stuff why I like it? You know, it just doesn't, you know, come across very well. So finally I convinced her to go to Kentucky with me. I'm like, let's just go there. I want to put you in the environment. You can see how this will be. And the rest is history. It was literally 180. And now we'll both sip on it. I give her things. She's not as much into the video part of it and all, but she'll still drink it and enjoy it and appreciate it for kind of what it was. It took a little while to do that, but I would say for anybody, if you can get someone to Kentucky and get them into a rick house and listen and smell and appreciate and understand that, it's a real kind of, man, I don't even know like what to say. It was a big deal for my wife to get her into that environment. So
it's inspiring to see it as a craft, as something that it gets real effort and artistry put into it. That's inspiring. And also, Julie likes beer. And so occasionally I would pick a whiskey and say, what do you think of this one paired with that beer? That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all kinds of ways of doing things. That's for sure.
Well, and I think that the experience of drinking whiskey as well, and that goes to your point about getting down to Kentucky and doing the 360 view of everything going on. Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons I like drinking it is that each time I taste something new, it really is an experience, good or bad, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's, you know, sometimes like this Electric Craig, I was like, I don't get sick of these flavors. Yeah. Like these beautiful baseline bourbon flavors are delicious and I enjoy them. And they're, you know, but then if you get something that's a little bit crazy and off the wall and a craft that comes through, like you can enjoy that experience too. Obviously that's like a step up from just getting into it. But
anybody that comes here that says they don't like whiskey, first we give them a shot of Malort and then we give them anything off the wall and they love it. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. We all fully understand what Malort is. That's just it's I don't think it's quite as bad as people make it out. I mean, they make it sound like it's the worst thing ever. It's not the greatest, but again, I've had worse things. I guess I don't know what that necessarily would be, but it's not something I want to drink very often. But I think it's just kind of a fun thing. Like you had mentioned, appreciating the craft of that. Like we're sipping on something that did nothing for 12 years.
Right.
You know, a lot has happened in 12 years and now we get to enjoy it. And I guess that's the perspective of like where you try to go with things. Same thing might apply for wine, whatever it is. If you can shift someone from a different spirit to another and try to get them to understand more than just, we're not just doing shots of Jack Daniels, you know, that's always the thing when you tell people, oh, I really enjoy whiskey or I drink whiskey. I always feel like for the person who doesn't understand, they think I'm just at home doing shots of like Jack Daniels all day long. You know, it's like, you know,
no judgment, by the way, if that's what you're doing.
It
is not my place to judge.
Yeah. But anyway, so whatever I think anybody can get someone into the environment of that, I think it'll really, really help with things. But
I always said, even when we weren't drinking a lot of whiskey, we've always really enjoyed beer and even wine. Like we'll go to wine country sometimes just because we're nearby, and it's a fun, again, artistry, craft. A lot goes into it. That's fun to go and be a part of. And I always said that her palate, Julie's palate, has always been far superior to mine. She pulls out flavors from beers, wines, and now whiskeys that I'm always like, oh wow, there is something there that I didn't recognize before. Mm-hmm. Her palate was the reason that I was like, you've got to get involved with whiskey too. You've got to be a part of the channel. Because originally I was doing some videos myself. I still do occasionally, but it's her palate that's the star of the show, I think.
I feel it's like all my weird things that I just spew out without thinking.
I would disagree with the term weird because I don't think it's weird. I think it's literally what it is you're nosing and tasting, which is the best part of that. You know, I mean, you always want someone to be like honest and about what it is they're enjoying for whatever reason, good or bad. And that's oftentimes a really important thing for a lot of people or couples to do these, because you can really expand beyond, like, you've got two people that have got, I don't want to say like different palates. We all do,
Totally,
but
yeah.
but you're giving each different perspective, which is a really like cool thing and a nice advantage for you to get people to understand that, hey, these are all the nuances of what this whiskey has to offer. So
I think it's fun. I mean, we've done it a couple times where I think this is why I like bourbon. Like, you can get, like you said, get flavors in there. I don't know if they're right or not. I mean, hopefully they're right, or they're like on the right path, right? But sometimes you'll read a bottle and it'll go through the 40 things that you're supposed to taste, and half of them you've never heard of. And it's like, it goes back to that experience. Like, if this reminds you of a memory, or this reminds you of a flavor you had, like an ice cream cone flavor or something, right? Like, that's just part of the fun of drinking this, in my opinion.
We did a 5 Sip Friday video. It was a Scotch Malt Whiskey Society bottle. And we were reading the tasting notes afterwards just to see if we got any right.
We got like melon. We got one out of like,
There were like 45 tasting notes that they put on the fact sheet for this bottle. We were like high-fiving because we got like 3 or 4.
Yeah, we're like, it tastes like the sea. Got it.
Got it, Brian.
It's just one of those, it's one of those things. And that's where I've always struggled with kind of wanting to describe things as like good or bad, because I've early on, I recognized that wasn't necessarily my place to suggest that. Like, that's because what I like, you may absolutely hate, and vice versa. And that doesn't make it bad, So, that's
yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of why it's fun, like the tag team that we have too, because there's a lot of things that Phil loves that I'm like, pass on. And there's a lot of things that I'm like, this is like so interesting and cool. And he's like, I don't like this farmhouse, whatever, right? So
I mean, like you'll go for a Woodford wheat, and
out.
that might as well be grass clippings to me. I can't do it. And I know that people love that bottle. I know it's been top 5 lists for several people over the years, for several channels. It hits my palate so poorly that I can't do it.
Yeah. There's just some of them, and people, and that's a very interesting thing, because like wheated bourbon or wheated whiskey, that can be a very different like profile. And I've heard it described as the same way, like where it's either something that people really enjoy or appreciate versus people that don't want anything to do with it at all.
Yeah, it's the cilantro thing, right?
Cilantro,
that's wheat whiskey.
Cilantro,
That's wheat whiskey to me. It's the cilantro thing.
Yeah.
Really? Well, look what I pulled out. You were very quick. You were very quick the other day when I posted and said, "Is this like early on like one of the best whiskeys of 23 so far?" And you were maybe the first one that like immediately threw in a different brand, and it just happened to be the Barrel Vantage. And I'm like, well, it's been a little while since I did the review, and I wanted to go back to it. So if you've got it handy,
we do.
We're going head to head right now. We're gonna see if this for me moves ahead of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. It'll take a little convincing for me, but
they're very different. Yeah, I think that I'm just excited about this bottle. We just released our video for it on Monday, and I think it's 2 things. Number one, I was just excited about the bottle in general because I'm not a barrel guy generally. I'm not a blended whiskey guy in general. And then secondly, I just found it to be delicious at the same time. So it was like, first off, it's a brand I'm not crazy about, making whiskey that I am crazy about. And then secondly, the whiskey itself, every time I return to it, I'm enjoying it just as much as I did originally, which is not something I always expect.
That's a very good point, because I think barrel has kind of fallen into that category where I think oftentimes a few of their blends, don't always hit, then you start factoring in the price. So then you kind of get maybe a little sour taste in your mouth, where I'm going to steer kind of away from it. But then they do something like this, or a dovetail, or a seagrass. And then it's like, oh, here's barrel again. They're back at it. And I think you quickly start to appreciate they're very good, in my opinion, of blending with finished whiskey. Like, that's to me where they shine, period.
And that's another thing that I'm not usually crazy about is finished whiskey. And then so when everybody was celebrating like Seagrass last year, I got to try it and I went, well, it tastes like candy. I don't know. It didn't really do much for me, and that's an unpopular opinion. But for some reason, the last couple things that I've tried from them have been just, they've hit my palate. And again, I don't want to say like, oh, they've gotten better. It's not that at all. They've just released things that did hit my palate in a bigger way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, and this was just, I guess, for anybody who is not familiar with what this is, because this just came out recently. I'd say maybe within the last, maybe month and a half, 2 months, maybe.
For us, it was 2 trips to the liquor store because I read all about it on the first one, and on the second one, I hemmed and hawed and finally bought it. So
okay, all right,
2 weeks.
So for anybody who's not familiar with what this is, so it's a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys finished in Mizunara, French, and toasted American oak. So you've got some really interesting kind of blends in this whiskey that should really work well together when you think of what these are. Like you start to think of the French and toasted American oak as really introducing some sweetness to it. You know, the Mizunara is maybe going to start helping to add like a little bit of that, maybe that complexity, the richness part of it, you know, to kind of tone down the sweetness.
Yeah, I think the Mizunara may be contributing some dryness to it too.
Yeah,
or it could, something is at least.
Yeah, it's kind of a good point, because I was thinking again with this, like those dried fruits, you know, some like apricot, things along those lines. It really got fruity for me, and it was less like sweet. I was thinking going in, like just reading it, I was already kind of convincing myself of what it was going to be. And it really got more fruity than I was anticipating. But
yeah, there's a balance that I did not expect. I was thinking this is going to be an oak bomb, which is fine with me. I love an oaky whiskey.
Yep, me too.
And I got more than I was hoping for.
Yeah, I would agree.
It does have a fruity nose, though.
It is very fruity on the nose. Yeah,
it really is. But again, it's very well balanced. That's one thing with this.
Yeah. At 115 proof too.
Yeah,
the spice that comes through is not like a ton of like proof heat. It's flavor spice.
Yeah,
which is again not always expected with a proof that high.
What is yours, by the way? What is yours exactly?
115.88.
Okay, so mine's lower. Mine's 113.54.
Oh, I didn't realize that there were different. Wow.
Yeah, they're all different. I think the batches are relatively small. Like I don't think they're a huge volume, so they do lots of batches. Which I appreciate. Like I think you got way more control over those small batches than if you're just putting together, you know, 10,000 barrels of something, you know. Then
you have to respect it, because it just seems like that's a lot of work. It's a considerable effort.
And I like the price point. Like they hit us with, I think maybe $80, something like that.
85 here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, I would say in today's market, for what probably goes into all of that, it seems like a very fair price to pay for something like that.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, like I usually, because barrel hasn't hit my palate so well in the past, it's not something that I gravitate toward. And I've seen batch after batch come through. And I go, well, I'm not going to spend $80 to $85 or $95 on that. But this one, because it read, just reading the summary of it, I was like, I think this is going to hit my palate, because I know it's good quality whiskey.
Yeah.
It just doesn't always hit my my palate perfectly, and we're just something's going on there. There we go. We're back. Okay, our internet is not the best.
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, I think for what it is that this has to offer, I think it's worth giving a shot. I don't know. I mean, if there's something within that blend that maybe you don't like, I would say, okay, maybe you steer clear. But if you're not turned off by what this blend is, I think you'll really enjoy. What I would say is, I think you have to like a slightly oakier profile, though.
Certainly.
Well, I was just going to say there's a nice balance here between sweetness and oakiness, because you do get like a little bit of a, maybe, I guess, an apricot or some sort of like dried orange fruitness, but there is great oakiness there. That's really nice. I think the flavors balance each other out well. Like it does temper that sweetness enough.
Yeah. And I also think that it's a blend that's for a blend very cohesive.
Right.
But also it has a complexity to it of flavors that are in layers that you can continue to find. And Barter asked that question, does it justify the $85? Knowing that he enjoys Scotch, he enjoys very flavorful whiskeys, and he's always looking for new flavors. Barter, I actually think that you would enjoy this whiskey a lot, based on what I know about your collection and what you've enjoyed so far. This is I think $85 is kind of spot on for this whiskey.
Yeah. I mean, really knowing what they do, like when you look at Seagrass now, just their standard bottling like this, it's $100. I'm kind of surprised this didn't come out at that price point, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
When I saw it for $80, $80, I think in my area, or 85, whatever it was, I thought, boy, I'm like, is there something like wrong? Like, why is it $85? I mean, that's a bad way to like think about it, but
I know. Yeah, did they not like it as when they were
maybe
doing
they don't
the trial?
know what
They didn't like
here.
it as much or something.
Maybe.
It is oily though. It clings to the palate. It lingers. There's a vanilla that just kind of hangs around afterwards. There's an awful lot to like about this whiskey.
There really is.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, whiskey is getting so expensive now, like just in general, and so there is an advantage to places putting things below that $100. I mean, once you start getting up into $100, you think twice, 3 times, 8 times about purchasing. Like even I'm, feels like this is available, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's like $125 or whatever. Is it really worth it? This is something that we really want. And so if you want more people to enjoy your, bourbon and your whiskey, like there is a benefit, but I do understand like well-aged, the process that goes into it, all of the different elements to make this happen. I mean, that, has to take into consideration too.
I mean, Scott, let me ask you this. Do you have the, Remus Repeal Reserve Batch 6?
I do not. We had lots of 5, and I bought several bottles of the 5, which I'm glad I did. It's probably my favorite one. And then it literally dried up. I've never seen another 6 around here. But do you guys have it? You enjoy it?
We do, and I do think it's a very good whiskey. I do think that the 5 was better as well. But the thing about that bottle is here that got bumped up to $99.99, and it was $90 previously. And for $100 for Batch 6, I like that whiskey. I was going to ask, would you spend $100 sooner on Remus Repeal Reserve or $85 sooner on the Vantage? Because I would put those price-wise in a very similar class, and flavor-wise, I wouldn't say that they're too far apart either, just in what you get.
I'd probably have to generalize with that. I mean, my initial thought would be I'd maybe be willing to spend a little bit more on the Remus, only because I know like what they've offered in the past, and I like how they oftentimes use some of the aged whiskeys and blended some of the different stuff. I like MGP anyway. Yeah. And then again, like barrel is one of those things where I'm like, boy, do I want to take the chance on it? I kind of know what I've got with Remus a little bit, or do I take the chance? I mean, my initial thought would be I'd probably be willing to spend a little bit more on the Remus. Now, if we're talking about this versus, let's say 6, and we say that's a step down from 5, boy, that makes it much more. It really makes it more difficult from the standpoint of, do I want a finished whiskey, or do I want that quintessential MGP, slightly older, kind of funkier profile? And that's maybe what it would come down to for me.
It's tough, because I think if you like a drier oak, the barrel is where it's at. I think if you like a sweeter oak, the Remus Repeal is where it's at. But I put these two kind of in the same category of, they're both pretty pricey, but I think they're both quite worth it. I still think even for the price, both are a good value.
Yeah, and that's always a tricky one these days, value, because like, is someone's value Jim Beam white label? It's like when we say value, we all get into that trap of thinking, oh, it's a great value, and now we're saying, oh, $85, that's a great value. Well, that's still a lot of money to spend on a little single bottle of whiskey. So, we use that term an awful lot. And again, it's us convincing ourselves that we like it that much that we're just willing to spend more money. Like I'm convinced that we use value to justify our purchasing something. Again, like Julie said, when you get above that $100 price point, we're going to make every excuse we possibly can for why I need that.
Yeah, that's a law of diminishing returns based on our experience too.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's not much. I mean, the more you drink of this, I mean, there becomes very little value in what this bottle ultimately will become. So yes, the diminishing return is not the best on these things. But
it's always good to go to a bar, like a bourbon bar or whatever, every so often too, to see what they're pricing in 1 or 2 ounces at, and then you're like, okay, I think I'll just go buy the whole bottle for about half, like for double the price of that one little shot. So
it's probably been. I can't even remember the last time I've paid for whiskey out anywhere. I just cannot get myself, knowing that I could go home and probably pour something way better than this. Like I can't pay $20 for, like, I don't know, Russell's. I refuse. There's no way I could do that. You know.
Yeah, I like to pay like $12 for a pour of scotch that I'm especially interested in.
Okay.
Just before I buy the bottle.
I was gonna say, I do think it's a good opportunity to see if you like something.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like anytime we go to like a bourbon, I always just like get an old fashioned or something, because I was like, I'm not really gonna, like you're gonna do it better than I am or whatever.
Yeah.
But the prices are really funny too. Now that we pay attention and we know like what things cost or whatever, you look at the list and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Like things that should be more expensive or sometimes cheap, and things that should be like $6 a pour or like $80 a pour, and you're just like,
it occasionally works in your favor though, because you'll find something that should be like $15 and you're like, that's a $7 pour, I'll take that. Sure.
That is the fun part of what we do, where we go in, we feel like we're getting over on the restaurant or whatever. Like, you're crazy, how can you sell it for this? And you've got Henry McKenna for $50, and you've got like whatever, some fancy brand for $20. You're like, who in the world is doing the pricing in this place? So that part of it is fun. So so besides these two that we've been sipping on, what else do you have on your list of something that you've either been surprised by or something that you're really enjoying so far this year?
So then I've got a couple of bottles that didn't actually come out this year, but they're newly available in Oregon.
Yeah.
And the first one, the Nelson brothers. We weren't totally blown away by the reserve, but we finally scooped up this classic for a little more than $40. I don't remember exactly what it was. 93.3 proof. And there's good flavor there. It's a really well-balanced whiskey. That I don't want to go crazy if I'm not going to gush over it, but I was impressed because I don't know if I just didn't expect much from it. Because again, you're talking about
low proof,
blend of whiskeys, straight whiskeys. I wasn't sure what to expect from it, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. I thought it had a lot more flavor than some of the bottles that I spent $50 or $60 on in the past. So if you're looking for something different that you haven't tried, to me that whiskey is an interesting flavor profile. We haven't put it in a blind yet, but I'm actually really excited to see how that one does.
It's 90 proof.
It's 93.3.
Okay.
Because they can't do anything without a decimal.
I gotta have that decimal in there. That's true. That is always the fun part about finding something, again, that you don't quite know or have an expectation for, and then you get it and you really enjoy it. And I would say for me, if we're keeping it kind of in that category quick, and again, this isn't one necessarily this year, but whatever it was that these guys were doing, that Wheelhorse stuff, again, it was just it surprised me. I just didn't expect it to be, I think, as good as it was. Actually, this says spring of 22 release. Okay. All right. I thought it was a little older than that. But anyway.
That brand, though, is very interesting because we picked up a Wheelhorse rye. We haven't tried the bourbon yet, but the rye randomly showed up here last year. I think it was 101 proof. Yeah. And after tasting it, I was like, I think this might be Wild Turkey 101 because it didn't really say any other than from Kentucky. And it was really, really good. We went on a camping trip with it. It didn't come back with us. It only took one weekend for that bottle to disappear. So obviously we liked it. And because it got drank so quickly, we never got the chance to compare it to the Wild Turkey 101. So I don't know what it actually is.
The Wheelhorse is Owensboro, which was the same ones that did or do right now. The oh my gosh, what am I thinking of? Oh God, it became such like a great, again, I'm gonna use value here, but it was a $30-ish bottle. They were the same ones that did like the OZ Tyler.
Somebody's gonna have to help
Green River.
Oh, right. We keep hearing about that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I believe this is all Green River stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Now,
Wow.
it's interesting because it says bottled by Latitude Beverage in Rumford, Rhode Island. Like, why in the world would anybody in Kentucky bottle something in Rhode Island? Like,
yeah, I've seen a couple of weird things like that lately. Like we
Maybe it's the crisp.
our video coming out
Fall
tomorrow
weather.
our video coming out tomorrow is a bottle that was sourced in Kentucky and bottled in California for seemingly no good reason.
really? Well,
We'll see.
the way it goes. Oh yeah, so yeah, Sugar Kitty said Wheel Horse at Green River. So for me, I thought it was, yeah, I really enjoyed it. They've got regular, they did a toasted, the rye, which I'm looking for the rye. I think that's going to be coming to our area pretty soon. But man, good, good proof. I like a lot of what they've been pumping out, so I'm kind of excited to try the rye as well. So
that's the only Green River stuff then that we've seen in Oregon, to my knowledge. And I think that bourbon is on the shelf by us, so we're gonna have to scoop some of that up because we really did enjoy that rye.
Yeah, if you can get the Wheel Horse, or even the was it? Geez, I just forgot the name of it again. Green River, yes, the Green River stuff. Yeah, we don't see it here either. And again, I don't know what the distribution of that is. I would guess now that Bardstown Bourbon Company has bought it, we'll probably start to see it pumped out to the masses a little bit more.
We don't get Bardstown here either, so we got very little to look forward to.
Really, you don't get, okay.
We're just north of Redwood Empire, and we don't even get anything
Yeah,
besides
it's
their base
weird,
3.
like what we're allowed in. Yeah.
Really? So for your area, what is it that you do get that everybody else seems to struggle with? Is there anything like that?
What do we get that everybody? I mean, we get a lot of Buffalo Trace here, like not the fancy stuff generally, but just regular Buffalo Trace is always on the shelf. There's ECBP falling off the shelf generally. There are some products here that are not gettable elsewhere that we actually like. People are always like, that's not readily available. And I'm like, it's all over the shelf here.
Yeah.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but
I don't know about like Woodinville. I don't know what the distribution is for that.
Yeah,
but that's more local here. But it is funny what Oregon can get and not, because like we can't get Smoke Wagon.
right.
And so we have to go to we have to go to Nevada to get it, or California. Like, so I mean, that's another bonus of the van, right?
Yeah,
so we're all
True, that is true.
Yeah.
Look, you convince yourself to road trip to go find bourbon. So here we go.
Literally did that last summer. Like, I'm out of my Smoke Wagon. I got to go down to Nevada. Let's go camping.
Yeah, we went camping at Reno and visited Frey Ranch, and it was an amazing trip. We came back with so much.
Your videos you guys did there, that was those were fun. But that's a place that would really be nice to get to at some point. Just seems like beautiful area.
Yeah, people think Reno, they think like the bowling museum, which is great, of course, but the scenery there is incredible. It's just,
I was surprised.
It shares the Tahoe watershed, so you know how close it is to those beautiful mountains. It's a spectacular place to be.
I can't help it. Every time I hear Reno, all I can think of is Reno 911. That's all I can.
Sure.
And that's completely, I'm sure they're probably like, Reno's probably like, I hate those people. I hate those people for doing that stupid show or whatever.
Nobody's saying you can't stand on a corner and eat a banana. They're just saying that you can't stand on a corner and eat a banana for 8 hours.
Exactly. So, oh boy. So anything else on the, my surprise.
And to be fair, we've got a lot of non-bourbon stuff this year.
Do you want to talk about the other?
Yeah, whatever else you're kind of enjoying.
But we have,
Let's talk about this one first. This is one that I just picked up on Friday because we were having a backyard fire, and it's brand new here. I wasn't sure what to make of it, but it's the Jack Daniel's Triple Mash, and that's new to us. And the bonded came and went really quickly. We never got our hands on it, but I honestly hadn't heard great things about this. Didn't expect much. Sitting around a campfire this weekend with this bottle, I mean, you can see the damage we did in just one night.
Yeah.
We enjoyed the heck out of it. It was fruity. It was oaky. There was a ton of vanilla. And maybe it was just the environment. Maybe it was just because we were sitting around a fire. But I really enjoyed this bottle. I thought it was great for, I think we spent $34.95 on it or something like that. And I understand it's a 700 mil, so you get just a little bit less. But I am not the biggest low proof Jack Daniels guy, not by any means. And I really enjoyed this bottle.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it kind of seems like that lineup when they released that and the so that was the triple mash. The other one was the bottle and bond, I think, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And those seem to get like, I mean, people were kind of seemed like indifferent where they were like, boy, I maybe didn't expect that much, but they ended up being pretty solid, whiskeys. And I thought one of them won some huge award.
I honestly, I don't keep up with anything, so it's hard to know. But I try to get the stuff that comes through that I think is interesting, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go for that one, and I ultimately pulled the trigger. I'm really glad that we did. That's good whiskey.
I think the triple mash won like some like whiskey of the year or something with like Whiskey Advocate or something, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know. I don't know how a 90-some proof bourbon can win Whiskey of the Year or whatever. But
well, that's actually bonded as well. They're both. Yeah, that one is too, and it's the malt rye Tennessee whiskey combo. It's awfully good whiskey. It's surprisingly good to my palate, anyway. You like it?
I mean,
I've been talking a while.
I only had like a little sip of it, so
I did that much damage.
Yeah, that was all you and.
Then I really like it.
Yeah, looks like someone was enjoying the fire a little more than some others, but
it might have just been Phil.
I had a great time.
Yeah. How was that fire? Was it just raging? You'd probably get in there and throw more wood on the fire.
I was in charge of keeping it stoked, and it was kind of cold out because normally we have like the month of December, like the temperature is not super cold here. It's just been like all out freezing, and so we finally got a break in the weather. I think it was like 50, and so I was just chucking the wood in, keeping it warm.
I mean, someone's got to like take care of the drunk people, right? I mean, when you're polishing off a bunch of, Jack Daniels, someone's got to take care of the fire.
Exactly.
I didn't notice.
Yeah.
You were warm on the inside and the outside.
I felt very warm. I remember it being a very nice afternoon.
I bet you. Yeah, I could have swore it was like probably a 75 or 80 degree evening. Jeez.
I remember the sun was up. I don't know. It's great.
Boy, you guys really did some work then. Well, you stayed out for a while. You stayed out all night and into the morning.
I guess.
We started at like 3, so
I'm guessing there was more that was drink than just Jack Daniel's Sour Mash.
No, we had it was a fun night. It was a good one.
Yeah.
That's good.
We have one other bottle. Do you want to talk about that bottle, or do you want to do yours first?
No, you go ahead. I really don't even have any more other than my Varsity Barrel Proof. But.
And we have picked up a couple Irish whiskeys at the beginning of this year because I think we went to Ireland at the end of last year, October, something like that. Kind of like dabbled in Irish whiskeys, and so we've now been collecting a few for some upcoming videos as well. So
St. Patrick's Week, we're doing a whole stretch of Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited about
that. That'd be fun. That's one thing I really do enjoy it. It's just for whatever reason something I don't ever seem to buy. I don't know why, because the ones I've tried I've enjoyed, and I don't know why I don't have more. I seem to have more like rums than I do other spirits, but I don't know necessarily why. And I really do enjoy, man, someone sent me something. I don't even know what in the world, some Irish whiskey, and I don't even know what it is. I don't know why the hell anybody would send me Irish whiskey, to be honest, but I don't know. Maybe they had too much, or maybe they're hanging out at the fire with Phil. I don't know. That's why they're like,
we do one rum video a year. The Truths, Proofs, Firewater Reviews channel sends us a batch of rums every year to try, and they call it Rums for Bourbon Drinkers. And we always have a good time with it. But after that video every year, we get inundated with rum samples.
Yeah.
And we never get to them. We drink them on live streams occasionally, or once in a while with part of a tasting and that sort of thing. But we've got so much rum in the house now. We don't know what we've got. We don't know how good it is. We know it's really good. A lot of it. But we've got a heck of a collection going.
I know. All I knew about rum was like Captain Morgan's, basically. And then they're like, no, try this. And I was like, wow, like who knew rum could be like
Captain Morgan's a very low baseline. If that's where you start, if you start there, you can only go up from there.
It was only up from there. And
because when you, and I suppose that really applies to, I guess, any quality spirit. I mean, when you start getting to something that's made a little bit more like the Four Squares, things like that, rums like that. I mean, those are how we think of, like, these kinds of whiskeys. It's the same thing in the rum world, where you get those rich flavors of things. And a lot of it has to do with how and what it's made with. That's with rum, is that, it has to be made with, just a quality product. If you're using additives and all that, and a lot of them dump sugar and, molasses and nasty stuff. I mean, it can be kind of nasty, but anyway, so
yeah, it can be gross for sure. We do have one more bourbon that we just scooped up. This is actually a bottle, a cork pop for us. It's a Four Roses single barrel that was selected by a couple of stores locally, and it's the first time that we've seen the OESK yeast strain, aged 10 years, 8 months, and it's 106.4 proof. So we had the
OBSK last year, right?
Right. We had the OBSK and the something SV. And those have been historically the last couple of years some of our absolute favorite bottles. So first time seeing this yeast strain, and we are very excited to try this one.
Yeah, when we did our pick last year, ours ended up being an OESK, and it just, for whatever reason, it drank so much. Now it was a I think a tier 5, and on your bottle you can identify it by the tier. It should say T maybe 4 or 5. If it says 6, then that's really high. But a lot of them are, T maybe 4, 5, 6 that are on there.
Warehouse QN barrel number 51-1K.
Oh,
I don't think that sounds good.
All right, it's probably fake. It's probably fake.
It's fake. It's a word again.
I'd have to look and see. Maybe it's not T.
Let me peel back the label. This says Michter's. No,
it says Michter's. Yeah, I'd have to look. There's usually an identifier on there, and I'd have to look back at mine. I know what mine looks like, but I think when you get some of those higher tiers, you can get some really rich bourbons from those things. And again, I think just like Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, for me, the Four Roses single barrels, like the Barrel Proof, they're a buy. It doesn't matter for me what it is. I really enjoy those as well.
Yeah.
So, but
looking at the other one.
Yeah, I'm looking to see, because this just says 10-2S.
So I wonder if your other one was, oh boy, I wish I had I don't have any up here. I don't think.
So it says 51-1K. This one says 10-2S. This was the OBSK, by the way, from last year.
Okay.
That's mind blowing. That's such good whiskey. This was our top 3 from this past year.
Yeah, some of them are just absolutely. They do not do as much as I love that bourbon. When I did one in a blind flight of 5, it came in last. Like, I don't even know how in the world that's the case, because I absolutely love it, and it just did not show up amongst the other ones I had at all. And that's been kind of I think a lot of people, it just seems like for whatever reason, Four Roses does not do well in blinds. I think because it is a softer, more delicate kind of bourbon.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, and we had it in our Advent tournament, and it did really well. The reason it didn't win, the reason that it got ultimately beat, was because we said, it's great, it's not exciting.
But it wasn't exciting, right? It was like beautiful, all the flavors you could ever want, and it was really not, like, it was really delicious, and everything was there, but it's like you wanted something to take it over the edge, right?
Yeah. What it got beat by a Wilderness Trail.
It might have gotten
a high rye bourbon.
Yeah.
Just because it was great, and it had just a little more excitement to it. But there's no denying it's absolutely fantastic whiskey.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a little boring compared to the others, but boring is great because you know you're getting one of the best whiskeys on the shelf.
Yeah.
But you're right, it just doesn't seem to perform in blinds.
It is. I mean, I think it's a little bit more, I hate to say like one dimensional, because you get like hit with this like flood of like really great flavors, but you know, it never seems to get like outside of that. Like like it just stays in its lane. Like it's so good, like right there, that it just, man, I don't know. I absolutely love them. And I know there's other people that don't. But man, I love a good barrel proof Four Roses.
And Four Roses is just a spectacular, beautiful place to visit as well. What a gorgeous facility they have.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. The place they do like their single barrel picks and stuff. It's just kind of like a if you've been, it's just kind of a little small like gift shop, and then set back are all these very small, low kind of like single. I don't want to say single story, but they're probably maybe only 2 or 3 racks high. They're not very high at all. They look very small, but yeah, not a lot going on, but they're very consistent. Like they get the same temperature with all of them for the most part, because it has nowhere to really go, and kind of an interesting place. But the barrel select process of going through each mash bill is a pretty cool thing as well. You don't get multiples of each one, but you get to try every single recipe, which is kind of cool.
I would love to do that. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. If you guys ever get an opportunity to do one, jump on it. And I think it's Mandy was her name. She's the barrel coordinator or whatever. And she's a lot of fun there as well. They keep you very like entertained, interactive, and all of that. But when we got in, we were having like a really good time, and then everyone just got quiet. And it was like it was getting down to like serious business. But
serious.
That didn't last very long. So
that's not where I shine.
No, that is where you shine. That's when everybody else gets quiet. Julie gets rowdy.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the staying quiet very long either, unfortunately.
No, we're still trying to find somebody to work with store-wise to sell picks. We actually have a bead on a couple of cool picks, but we just haven't figured it out yet who we can sell through. So
we'll chat after this. We'll chat after this.
Great.
Yeah.
Some weird rules here, but we've got some really unique, cool stuff that we're working on. Just need to figure out how to get it out there.
Yeah, I might know a guy. So we'll help you with that. So all right, before we wrap her up, I just wanted to say, like, for me, this was where Heaven Hill became consistent to me this year. I think this is probably the best start to what it is that Heaven Hill has done like this year, to have consistent A batches. I know they're completely different, mash bills and all of that, but to have what it is they're doing and fire off the way they are with both A batches, because in the past, a lot of them, people just didn't want anything to do with A batch of electric barrel proof, none of the larceny. And this year, I think it's starting off like with a bang. I couldn't be happier. I mean, this is, I'll say, like, I haven't released the video yet, but it is there's so much strawberry kind of pastry notes in this thing. It's well balanced. There's not all the heat that there used to be, where it was like flavored gasoline on some of these things.
It used to be such a hot whiskey. Ours is on the bottom all the way.
I was like, I kind of want to try what we have, because
we should get that.
It is so much more like refined. And if you enjoy like wheated, bourbons, then I think if you can convince someone to, like, because people get jaded where they're like, I'm not going to buy another one of these if it's just like trash. But this one is just so much more what I think people hope for them to be. And I think they're really kind of hitting their stride at this point. So
I was wrong about where it was. This is the one. This is the one I had you grab was the B520. This is the C922. We're going to drink along with you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, drink that. I'll be interested to see kind of like the comparison. I haven't gone back to that one a little bit. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. I think we all enjoy watching your stuff too. But man, he's like I still can't figure out how like people do the videos where like he was doing some where he was talking to himself in different chairs and stuff. Like I don't even know how to edit a video like that. I have
He's
zero.
so far ahead the rest of us.
Yeah.
His TikTok game is
That's
crazy.
what it is. Like
In the
damn
parlance of
TikTok.
our times.
Damn TikTok. If anyone has not subscribed to Bourbon of the Week, definitely go check him out. He's doing some really, really cool things.
Yeah,
So.
Chris's TikTok and shorts game is something else. He's
he
fun
does
to watch.
Shorts are kind of a fun thing because it like works really well for me because I can do that very quickly and I'm like lazy at points. So I feel like I can do, I feel like I can pump out a couple videos and it feels like it's a full video to me and it's only 60 seconds, which is perfect. You know,
we did 2 of them when we were in Ireland and I don't think we've done one since.
I know, we probably should.
The first one got a lot of good views. Even it was just us driving around Ireland. Like we are not good at driving here, and that was it. Like,
yeah, they're kind of a fun thing. I think they're trying to figure out like how that's gonna work. I think it'll work out really well because I mean, at the end of the day, not many of us have an attention span for watching a full video of what we do. We enjoy doing those, but at the end of the day, when you can watch something for a minute, you're like, yeah, that took care of about everything I needed to know about that thing. You know,
yeah, especially if it's like a tasting of a single bottle. Like you just want to know if it's horrible or if it's great. Because if it's anywhere in the middle, then it's just a palate preference, which is 90% of what we're doing here.
Right. Yeah. So we just like completely devalued everything we do when we when we do a video. Yeah.
But
I'll cut that part out of the live stream. So yeah.
But I mean, we find value in the long form stuff just because that's what we tend to watch. That's why we do it. That's why we're not on TikTok. We really don't do much of anything outside of YouTube. We're not on Facebook or anything like that. So this is our web home, and because that's what we like to do. And we've considered even doing a podcast because we also enjoy podcasts. And that's long form stuff, but you know, do we talk about the same things? It's hard enough to produce it. Should we just produce the videos, release those as podcasts like some of the podcast channels do? I don't know. We've talked about a lot of different things.
Yeah, that is one of the things where I think at least nowadays you can kind of double up on like a YouTube video, even though I think as much as, you know, you would release like the video part of it, you know, who's going to watch an hour-long podcast? You know, now I would listen. I'll listen. I listen to them all the time, but I don't ever find myself watching a podcast. You know,
no. I love listening to them like treadmill or something like that. It's sometimes the only thing that gets you through a run. But
that's the way it is. But oh man, just for me. So like, what were your thoughts on the C922 of the Larceny?
So if we go with palate, that bourbon is a palate preference. This is where Phil and I divide because Phil loves Larceny and it just does not hit my palate.
Yeah.
I haven't really had one that I really enjoy, though. Everything that you say about the A123, I am excited about. Like if that comes here, then I want to try it because those flavor notes hit. I just had a little sip of this. It was a little nutty. I don't know. There's something about this one that it's just not my palate.
Here's the funny thing. You just mentioned something that before this, I think a lot of us used to get consistently that peanutty profile with Heaven Hill. The Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A123, not really any of it. I don't think I never even really dawned on me. Never picked it up hardly at all.
No.
Yeah, the milk chocolate peanut is missing from A123, certainly.
Yeah, there was a little bit of the kind of chocolatey notes. I mean, I kind of even described it as, because of the oak, I almost described it a little bit as like a bittersweet chocolate or a baker's chocolate, something like that, where you had the richness to something, but it wasn't like a Dove candy or some like real creamy. It wasn't something like that. But that's where like I was really happy, I guess, just with the overall consistency. Now this has some oak on it. So it's been so long since I've had the C922 that I don't even remember the profile of it. But this seems to me like it's older whiskey and it's a little bit more like just well done, if that makes any sense. And
that makes sense to me because the reason that we bought this is because the C922 Breaking Bourbon, I think, picked it as their bourbon of the year. Everybody that talked about how much they loved it.
You do really like it.
I've liked Larceny's stuff. Like I just finished a bottle of C920 not too long ago, which when I first tasted it, I wasn't crazy about it. It was pretty astringent. It became a caramel bomb ultimately.
Yeah.
It was one note, but it was very good. And I also got it for $50. And I got exactly what I was hoping for $50. I thought it was a great bottle, on par kind of with a 1792 full proof, similar price point.
Yeah.
Both totally different flavor profiles, of course, but huge flavors, a little warm. But if you're looking for a big proof whiskey, you are getting nice flavors from it. So that's kind of how I would have put that one, on a qualifying standpoint. But I don't know what I think of the C922 yet, and we're just getting down below the neck there. So this is it's a pretty fresh crack, but it doesn't blow me away.
Yeah,
it doesn't hit me like bourbon of the year.
Right, but it's better than the ones you've had.
Yeah,
lately.
I think it will be once we get it down in the bottle.
And that was one of the things that I appreciated with this was that early on I felt it was like really good. Like I felt that even if it opened up and changed a little bit, I felt like it would be like if it could get better than it already was, I was happy about that. I mean, and mine's not even down past the middle of the E. So what the hell do I know? Like, I mean, this isn't even middle E territory yet. So I mean, you cannot judge this whiskey. And if I mention middle of the E in a video, I'm going to give you full credit for that. Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah. This
is a great bourbon, but again, it is not the Bourbon Van middle E kind of territory yet. So
expect that it's going to hit its peak. And then you have to drink it as quickly as you can. And
then it's just
exactly. Yeah, I think it's once you get to like the middle part of the E, it just becomes chuggable.
Yeah, I thought we've got every single Ledger Craig barrel proof dating back to B520. And if you look at every time I go to like pull one out to see maybe I want to drink it, they're all right at that E, and I just put it back.
I can't go past the E. Oh man, I've got a little bit. I can do probably a little bit more damage before I get to the middle part of the E. So I feel good about being able to get a couple more pours. But to that point, I think really when you start to get down on a whiskey that far, I think there's where a lot of the air really being introduced to that bottle starts to change it for the better oftentimes.
Right. So I will say that this hasn't been sitting here all that long. But the second and third sips that I've had of it, I'm enjoying it much, much more than I did the first sip.
Yeah.
Are you getting much or any strawberry notes at all on it? Like fruity notes like that?
I'm not.
There's a red fruit on it, but I don't know what I would call it. If it's tart. It's very tart. I would maybe go on this raspberry, but maybe strawberry.
Mine's buried by the oak and a bit of the nuttiness.
That's just not like I would be very interested to see what you guys thought of this compared to that. Like it seems like it's just gotten like fruitier, like more like well balanced. The oak is still there. I think you still have to like that oak profile, but man, it's just I don't know what it is. Like I'm really happy to see where Heaven Hill is going. And I hope B doesn't like kind of fall on its face, but I don't know.
I will say I do think that the air helps this one, and we are freshly new on this bottle, so I think when we get down a little bit more, the flavors will get a little bit better. Because you're right, like as I've been drinking this, I like it more and more.
Yeah, the nuttiness dissipates once the air hits it, and I hope that happens in that bottle ultimately, because the flavor profile outside of that, I think is outstanding. So we'll see if it goes away.
And that's the one thing with this, like I'm just not getting that nutty characteristic that it has. I don't know what it is about it, because usually Heaven Hill, like we all know, like that's something you can pick out usually right away.
Yeah.
And if I was in really getting into both of these, I just not much. It's just I'm not getting, never really picked it up on the Elijah Craig, and don't get any of it at all on the Larceny. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the B batches shake out. So
off the top of your head, if you had to pick from those three, just something that your favorite right now. CEC. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it is just, and again, if you call it what it is, like when you guys did the video, Julie was like, this is bourbon. I'm like, that's like a great, like, analogy. Like, I mean, this is just bourbon. Like if you were going to give something to someone and be like, this is what bourbon tastes like, Hello.
Solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot go wrong with that. I love that profile of what that is. And I mean, I would probably rank them. All right, let me rank these real quick. I think, oh man, I still think I would go Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, Larceny, and then the Barrel.
Wow.
That's, again, like I struggle sometimes with finish stuff. Not that I don't like it, but I love a pure, just great bourbon.
Yeah, nothing to hide.
Nothing to hide. It's right there in your face. So that's probably what I would do. But these could flip flop depending on the night or whatever it may be. But both solid. So
what would you do?
Yeah.
I probably do the ECBP, then the Vantage, then the Larceny for sure.
Yeah, if we don't have that.
We don't have your version, unfortunately.
But for what we do have, like of all the 2023 stuff we've gotten, I would go the same order. I would say ECBP, then Vantage. And then there's some good stuff out there, but that's where I would sit. I
liked what Vantage has to offer. It was kind of a ride throughout. Every sip tasted different.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. Like depending on the day, you could totally want to drink that. But if you were just looking for just like straight, beautiful bourbon flavors, I mean, you could do worse than the ECBP.
I just thought it was great when you did the video and you were just like, this is bourbon. I'm like, shit, man. I'm like, why don't I just do more videos that just like just good old bourbon here? Like, I don't need to tell you. Like, I don't need to describe it. I'd be like, just go buy it. Like, you're gonna like it. Okay, that's all you need to know. That's all.
We do the same thing with Wild Turkey 101 rye. No, there's your rye. That's your rye flavor. Drink your rye.
Yeah,
enjoy it.
Let me ask you guys this: Is there anything you've had maybe the tail end of 2022 or going into 23 that either you thought you would have liked more, or just something that was like kind of a little bit of a disappointment, or didn't meet your expectations? Anything like that?
Good question. I mean, we've had, there's actually this bottle right behind Julie, the Bullet Bourbon Batch 7 barrel strength. I've had some good Bullet stuff in the past, and for the price, I was like, I think I got it for $50, and I thought that's going to be a decent $50 bottle, and it has not hit my palate at all. I don't know. Honestly, I think that's going to wind up in cocktails. It just is. It's not doing it.
Interesting. Yeah, I've had some good ones. I heard they stopped doing like that program for a little while, and I don't know if there was something going on, but I've had some really unique ones of those. But I mean, geez, at the end of the day, usually they're pretty solid, especially for the price.
Yeah, for the and it's hard to complain for the price and the availability for that matter.
Yeah,
I think we're spoiled here with what we've been able to get our hands on, and just didn't do it.
I'm trying to think if those are now their own, or if they're still sourcing the Four Roses distillate.
Yeah, I don't. Honestly, it's so hard to know.
Yeah. I mean, Four Roses pumps out a bunch of it too, but yeah, I would say with I wouldn't say like what Chris said. Like, I didn't hate it. I just wasn't sure. Like, I had to drink it a little bit before I even did a review, because I was kind of in the same category of, I need this thing to see if it's going to change a little bit. And I think it did for the better. So, but anyway, all right. So we're an hour and a half in, and you guys probably have an early dinner that you probably got to catch here pretty soon, but,
we have no kitchen, so
you just gotta get in the van and just drive around for the evening. Maybe
I know we should have probably gone south.
We have a grill in the backyard, and it's like 0 degrees. Yeah. But we had our kitchens tore up. We're getting new countertops, but they're still like 7 days out. We haven't had no running water in here, so no range, no anything. So we're living very primitively at the moment.
We just had a little water issue at the house too. It kind of ran in our kitchen and down into our finished basement. That was kind of a bummer, but we do get new flooring out of the deal, which is kind of nice. So we were okay with that. So, but anyway. All right. So first of all, thank you guys for joining tonight. Really, really appreciate it. I think we got somewhat accomplished what we wanted to. These just always turn into like a virtual chat, and then people listen to us,
just chat.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds an awful lot like a podcast to me.
It does sound like, And I would not want to edit this. If this was a podcast, I wouldn't want anything to do with editing this damn thing. So
I know sometimes you do need. We're really bad at like having like a agenda,
Right. Yeah.
like at any time, even if it's just the two of us. Like we're like, oh, we should do a flight, and then we like never get to it or something because we're always just chatting. But this was a lot of fun. Thank you for having us. I know we've been working on it for a while.
Yeah, it's been great.
It's been too long. So hopefully the next amount of time won't be nearly as long, and we'll have to do some more of these. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still fun. I mean, mine are, Tuesday nights, not much going on Tuesday nights for crying out loud. So if we can get on and kind of shoot the shit a little bit for a while, that's always a fun thing to do. So thanks for the impromptu invite and coming on. I appreciate it. So
yeah, totally our pleasure. This is great. Like you said, been wanting to do this for a while. Very happy to make it happen, and always great to chat with you. And yeah, thank you so much.
We'll have to work on some blind flights. Those are always fun. I don't do them nearly enough, but they're always fun, especially when it's like the other way, when you get to watch people like kind of embarrass themselves. That's more, I mean, I like that part of it more than the one. So I'm pretty sure we could all like work something out where we can just embarrass the hell out of each other. So
that sounds perfect.
That'd be good. That'd be good to be. So before we go, for anybody who is not familiar with the Bourbon Van, where can they find you guys? Tell them a little bit about your YouTube channel, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, we are YouTubers based in the Pacific Northwest, and we travel in the van, look for pretty places, try to tell some fun stories, and visit cool distilleries and share their story, whether they're big or small. And we talk about various types of whiskeys, do lots and lots of tastings. Sometimes there's a cat on the channel. And what else?
I was just gonna say, there's sometimes a cat. She's a new cat, so she's not real used to being on TV. So or TV, whatever this is.
Yeah,
this thing.
Yeah, this whatever this is.
Yeah.
Whatever we call it.
But we travel. We try to share pretty places and unusual flavors and cool whiskeys when we find them, and that's it. That's the gist of it.
And we're at the Bourbon Van.
At the Bourbon Van on YouTube and Instagram, and yeah. That's about it. Share us with your mom. Your mom would probably like our channel.
Yeah, share us with your mom. Yeah, I'm going to tell my mom. Actually, I'm going to text my mom the Bourbon.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Nice.
she's in touch with your mom. It's good to keep in touch with your mom.
Yes, definitely. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody. And then everybody in the chat, there's still 39 suckers sticking around. I have no idea how in the world 39 people are still around here or whatever. But guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. Appreciate it very much. And to Phil and Julie, thank you guys for joining tonight. We'll be back with another one next Tuesday, but I'm not going to know what that is until next Tuesday, probably midday. So your guess is as good as mine. I have zero idea what the hell is going on with this whole thing, but appreciate everybody's time tonight, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Cheers.